So today we're going to talk about taking one very, very simple idea and flipping it into a whole bunch of different sounds while maintaining that core idea and simply just trying to be as creative as possible with our note choice. Now, this goes back to the old idea of teaching a person to fish rather than catching them a fish, right? That's exactly what I'm trying to do here today, to show you that one simple little germ of an idea can turn into a plethora of useful things. And actually, I'm a much bigger supporter of working in this way than simply just trying to learn a whole bunch of new information every day and really drowning in too many ideas. So you can think about this like a theme and variations, and I think that that's going to teach us much more than just trying to learn dozens and dozens and dozens of ideas and ultimately forgetting them, never getting deep enough on any of them to have them make a difference in our playing. And as a teacher, I feel a real responsibility to show you how to do this because over the years of teaching hundreds of students, I found that these methods work the best. A lot of trial and error went into that, but this is really the way that my students are getting the most out of their time spent practicing, and it even works for me as well. I do even more trial and error on myself in my own practice time, and I've really found that I've gotten the most out of this way of working. Okay, enough of the preamble. Let's dive in. So here is the original idea that we are going to manipulate. It's a 2-5-1 in the key of B flat on my instrument, the tenor saxophone. Here it is. All right, so very, very simple, right? Just arpeggiating up the 2 chord, and then over the 5 chord, we're just simply playing 6, 5, 3, 2, and then we're resolving to the 5th on the 1 chord. You should be able to play this 1 or 2 times and really have it memorized and understand what's going on and understand the sound of it. So do you notice that right now, in its original iteration, every note is diatonic to the chord. Every note fits perfectly in every chord as we go through the 2-5-1. And I suggest starting this way because if we have something that's pretty basic and easy to understand, easy to hear, then we have all these options of starting to flip it. Okay, so 2 concepts that I really like to keep in mind when I'm doing this, when I'm using a skeleton of an idea, an original idea, and then trying to do variations. I think about 2 words, diminishing and augmenting. So diminishing means making something narrower in musical terms. So that means that I'm going to be lowering notes. And augmented means just the opposite. It means that I'm going to be making the intervals wider. So obviously I am going to be raising the notes. So let's start with diminishing notes or lowering notes because I think there's actually a lot more possibility there. Now, one caveat before we get into this, really I'm going to focus on the 5 chord because the 5 chord is where we want most of the tension. So I'm going to be focusing first on manipulating the notes of the 5 chord. And you're going to see that as we go through this. All right, so what if we took our original idea and we decided to diminish one note in that idea? One of the first ones that sticks out to me is the last note over the 5 chord, the 9. What would really sound great is if we took that 9 and we lowered it by a half step and it became the flat 9, a really classic sound in jazz, a really classic tension, especially right before we resolve. So let's lower that last note and see what it sounds like. All right, it already sounds completely different and a lot better in my opinion. Okay, so now let's try diminishing or lowering another note. Well, we already have the flat 9, so another really classic tension over a 2-5-1 is to do sharp 9 as well. So what if we went back to that note that was the 3rd in our original idea and we flatted it? And now it becomes the sharp 9. So now our 2 notes before the resolution, sharp 9, flat 9, 5. Let's see what that sounds like. All right, so you're probably starting to understand what we're doing here, right? So what are we going to do next? Well, can we diminish or lower the next note back? All right, well, what is it in the original iteration? It's the 5 of the 5 chord. Well, if we lowered that by a half step, Oh, cool. We have another great tension. We have a sharp 11. So now our last three notes before the resolution are sharp 11, sharp 9, flat 9, and then we resolve to 5. Let's see what that sounds like. Well, it just happens to sound awesome. Who would have thunk it? All right, let's do one more. So now we're gonna do the logical thing and we're gonna go to that first note over the 5 chord, which was 6, right? Well, let's lower that. And then what we get is a flat 6 or flat 13 or sharp 5. However you wanna think about it, it's totally fine, but we're just lowering that by a half step. All right, so if we lower that by a half step, let's see what that sounds like. Oh, it sounds awesome. And do you see what we've effectively done here is we've created over the 5 chord an altered sound. Now we have flat 6, sharp 11, sharp 9, flat 9, boom. We've created a lot of tension. And we're still not that far away from our first idea, right? The 2 chord is the same. And all we've done is we've taken every note over that 5 chord and we've just lowered it by a half step. So in effect, what we've done is we've diminished the entire idea over the 5 chord. We've lowered all those notes by a half step. And what was previously a great sounding line, but very consonant, now is very, very dissonant. Now we have a lot of tension and release, which is something that we really want in our playing, or at least most of us want in our playing. All right, well, now let's flip to the other side. Let's see if we can augment anything and see what happens with that. All right, so if we go back to our original diatonic idea, and now I think about what are the possibilities for augmenting things, one of the first things that comes to my mind is to take the second note over the 5 chord, which is the 5, C over F7, and raising that, augmenting it by a half step, because that's going to give us a really classic sound. You know, when you play over the 5 chord and you play a sharp 5, that's something that we hear a ton of musicians do all the time. So my mind goes there first. So let's see what it sounds like if we didn't change anything, but we just augment the 5. Hey, that sounds pretty cool. I really like that. All right, so for our second idea with augmentation in mind, let's keep the sharp 5, but now for the first time, I want to do something to the 2 chord. I'm going to go to that last note over the C minor 7, and I'm going to raise that by a half step. So my B flat becomes a B natural. And this is a tension that I like to use a lot over a minor 7th chord. So let's see what this one sounds like. Ooh, I really like that because that gives us not only tension over the 5 chord with our C sharp, our sharp 5, but it also gives us a little taste of the tension over the 2 chord. Okay, let's do one more based off of raising notes. So we're gonna keep that C sharp, the sharp 5. We're also gonna keep that B natural. And let's do one more note. So this one, I'm gonna simply raise the first note over the 5 chord, which is currently a 6. If we raise it a half step, it just becomes the flat 7 over the F7 chord. Now, I'm not really introducing a new tension or doing anything really weird. I'm simply saying, you know what? That E flat might sound better than the D after the B natural and before the C sharp. So let's see what that sounds like and if we like that. Now, I really like that because I think it just sounds really, really good to play that 7th right before we play the sharp 5. And I would have never arrived at that unless I was just willing to experiment, to raise some of these notes, to augment some of the stuff. So we just took one really, really simple idea and we created 7 lines based off of that all sound completely different from each other with varying degrees of tension. We lowered the notes, we raised the notes, but essentially we kept the same shape and the same idea, we just changed one thing at a time. So if I spent a week working on this one line and flipping it around, creating these small variations on it, I would say it's much more likely that some of this stuff would come out in my playing and some of these ideas would actually present themselves in my solo than if I were to learn a different line every day of the week. I'm a huge fan of taking something simple and examining it from every single angle, getting as deep as possible into that idea. And it kind of goes along with my little slogan, it's not about how much you know, it's about how deep you go. And I think if you spend some time working in this fashion, in this way, you will really see the benefits of it very, very quickly. So that's your homework. Take something simple like this and go work on it. Please let me know what the results are from that work. Leave me a comment below. And let's all try to get better in this way. Let's all try to teach ourselves to fish so that we know how to do it forever. Also, if you would like a PDF of these ideas, simply click on the link below this video and I will get that PDF straight to your inbox just so you can sort of review it on paper, take your own notes, whatever you want to do. But I'd be happy to give you that PDF. Simply check in the description below the video. All right, I hope this benefits you in some way. If you did find use from this, please consider liking the video. That does more than anything else to help us with the YouTube algorithm and get this video out to more people just like you. If you're going to do that, you might as well subscribe and turn on notifications so that you never miss a video. But most of all, thank you for taking the time out of your life to watch this video. I hope we brought you some value and we will see you soon on another video. Bye everyone.